Hey guys, it's Rod with Civil Advantage Firearms Training here. Today we're going to do a review and kind of a general description and some ins and outs of the Wartak SD rail. So there's this guy right here. So when we're talking about mounting optics to SKSs, you guys that have had SKSs for a long time, you know what a bear it is to deal with it. So normally, in the past, what our options were either you would get basically a dust cover or a recoil spring cover, whatever you want to call it back here, and it had a tactical rail like a Picatinny rail or Weaver rail milled right into it. That sucks. And you guys know it does, because what happens is going with the dust cover solution, you end up with a scope that any scope. There's no scope that you can buy that has eye relief so close that it's practical by any means. So now your scope is way back here, it's smashing you in the eye, you end up having to change the way that you shoot the rifle just to try to get the proper full sight picture through the scope. So that's terrible. The other really bad thing about that, if you're don't have that experience, is when you have the bolt pulled back on an SKS, the dust cover moves. Okay, so now you've sighted in your scope and you've spent all this time and energy and you're all excited, and why won't this thing hold a zero? Now some guys are probably a little bit better at it. I'm sure you guys have figured out how to get some way to keep it at a zero more or less. There's also a model of the same. The reason why I'm talking is I have all these dust covers and they never work for me. There's another model of the same one where basically there's 4 set screws right here, and it clamps itself onto the actual receiver. Well, that's great until you want to take the dust cover off, which is probably every second time you clean it if you're shooting corrosive ammunition. The other solution was to get a gas tube, cover the heat shield part up here, change this whole thing to a plastic stock or some kind of tactical stock that's got a rail up here. Then it's the other extreme. Now you're looking around for a pistol scope so that it has eye relief enough that you can get a full sight picture through the tube from all the way back here. And I do have a stock kit that has that, and I did mount a scope up there, and it wouldn't hold a zero either. I don't know. As I said, I'm not the expert on long range shooting or scopes or anything like that, so I don't pretend to be. But yeah, that's been a concern as well. I even tried mounting a red dot. Well, actually, it was a Neotech is what it was, so holographic red dot sight on the heat shield of a CZ858, which I just couldn't get it to align properly. In fact, for it to be point of aim, point of impact, I could get that to 40 meters. At 60, I was like a foot off the target, and there wasn't enough adjustment in the scope to even get it there. So it was not good. You're at the mercy of the alignment of the actual manufactured part up here. The scope, has nothing to do with it. So that's not a good solution either. Anyway, long story short, that's why everything else is terrible. Then you have this Wartak SD rail. So when I saw the guys at Wartak, we're gonna manufacture something like this for the SKS, I was super excited. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to turn into a bad review. I'm still excited, it's still good, but you'll see there's a couple of disadvantages with it. So we're going to cut in some other video while I'm explaining this stuff of me at my gun bench doing all this, taking it apart and whatnot, and then you can see kind of how it works. So you got this full length rail. The rail itself is phenomenal. Why? Because look at all this room I have now. I can mount this wherever I want it, and it's going to be perfect for the eye relief of the scope that I'm using. The next thing is the rail itself is totally solid. It's like there's no give at all. There's no movement whatsoever, which is great, right? That's what we want. Where it's mounted to is you remove the front sight, the rear sight, when it's front of the rail, but you remove the rear sight here and it fits super snugly, absolutely perfectly, to be honest with you, right into the same area where the rear sight was. You knock a little pin in there. Now to install this thing takes a little bit of gunsmithing. I'll just let you know, I'm going to do a separate video for the installation. And so basically what you do is you got to take this rear detent pin out. You have to grind off the little retainer. It slides out, and then you replace it with this long Allen keyed pin that goes across. And so it's attached from back here at the dust cover, which is actually on the receiver, thank goodness, right? And then here on the front sight. It has a built-in sort of chamfered, angled part to the rail under here, and that's the shell deflector. And I will put in a little footage of me shooting this thing, and it works great. It does get dinged up a little bit right off the bat. I think after you shoot about 1,000 rounds out of this thing, it's going to get pretty beat up under there. I don't know if it's going to affect the rail at all. I really don't think so. But other than that, the shells come, they just fly clean right out, and you don't have to worry about them. And I had 0 jams. I think I ran through about maybe 60 rounds or something like that. Now, for the dark side. You know, it's funny. I was all excited, and I was hanging out with my old buddy CF Claude, and the guy knows everything about everything, right? I don't pretend to know everything about everything. You guys know that, but Claude actually does. He's bought, if there's a rail for a gun anywhere in the world, for any gun in the world, he's bought it, tried it, figured out whether he likes it or not, got rid of it, or bought three more to stock up. So the guy knows everything. And no, he didn't pay me to say that. In any case, so I get the rail. I'm down at the range at an executive meeting there. And I'm like, hey man, check this out. Guess who got one hot off the press? Look at this rail. You've never seen anything like it. And he goes, oh yeah, so-and-so used to make those. So I'm like, oh, okay. So he took the wind out of my sails a little bit. And then he goes, yeah, the only problem is, are you ready for it? He goes, yeah, those are great. The only problem is you can't use stripper clips anymore. As soon as he said that, I thought about this picture here, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. No more stripper clips. So one of the things that still made the SKS a practical firearm was the fact that you could use stripper clips. That was the big thing, right? Because stripper clips, although it's not a real magazine, they're fast. You can reload this thing fast, and it's not a real chore. Now it's different. No, you can't use stripper clips anymore because this thing is semi-permanent, and you just can't get there. Just the design of the firearm. So now you got to load one at a time, like you would like a hunting rifle when you could load them into the magazine from the top, one at a time. So that changes what you're going to use this rail for. So for me, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe a fun target shooting rifle or a hunting rifle, maybe, right? Or if you were in some country way far away and you're battling against an evil regime, maybe you're the designated marksman with your SKS. I don't know, man. But nonetheless, I think that if you want an inexpensive hunting rifle that's super reliable, 7.62 by 39, nothing wrong with that round. That'll take down a deer no problem. Then I think this is a really good idea. In any case, brand name, as you can see up here, is Wartak, the SD rail. Any other experience with the SD rail? Oh, hold on, stand by, guys. I was almost ready to wind it up. Okay, cleaning. Cleaning is an issue for us because we like to use that really cheap, really high quality ammunition that we get. Certainly cleaning the bore is not a problem with this thing installed. If you want to clean, like pull the bolt and everything, basically you take these 2 Allen keys out, and basically it's like a pin, but it's threaded on both ends. So you pull this pin out of there after you take the Allen keys out, and the whole thing lifts up this way. Okay, so away from the dust cover. And it's totally snug. I don't think you're gonna lose 0 by doing that. So, and then when it goes back in, it's snug. I mean, you gotta tap this thing in. So the one thing I would say is, I don't think that pin is gonna put up with that much abuse for that long. Like I think, 5 years down the road, you might wanna replace that pin. Because it's going to get banged around a lot depending on how much you shoot the SKS, right? But at least that allows you to disassemble the whole thing. When it comes back, because the tolerances are so tight, I think you'll retain your 0. Now, the only other thing I'll say is when you tilt this thing up, if you have a really long scope, you don't have room here to tilt this thing all the way up. The scope actually hits the heat shield up front, so the gas tube cover here. So that's a bit of a disadvantage. Other than that, it's all good. I think it looks cool. I mean, when you guys look at that thing, I mean, it looks a lot more practical than it used to. Certainly, it's well worth the money. It's not really that expensive. I think they're retailing for around $129 or something like that. Maybe be able to get it a little bit less expensive if you buy like 60 of them or something. Just kidding. Maybe you buy 2 or 3 or whatever. But yeah, well worth the investment. Really changed the SKS for me as far as being an accurate longer range rifle. In any case, if you had experience with this rail or experience with the older rails that people used to make that were very similar, shoot some information down in the comments. Really appreciate you guys helping us all out with what you know. In any case, appreciate you guys watching. You can find us on the web at www.civiladvantage.com. Thanks and take care.